Howdy y'all, this is Dwight and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to demonstrate how I go about peening a pivot pin on a slip joint pocket knife. This of course is the knife that was in the previous video where I demonstrated how I go about removing a pivot pin I'm not pleased with. So in this video I'm going to be peening in this new pivot pin that I have ready to go here. And before we get started, I cleaned the inside out and whatnot, and I also used my tapered reamer, this little hand reamer I got off the old Amazon, and I cleaned out the bird's eye pivot bushing here on both sides and made sure to double check that I had the depth down correctly. I like to get down close to 3/4 of a tapered ream down inside that bushing. That way there's plenty of room for the pivot pin to expand out and to grab and seat quite nicely once I peen it correctly, of course. So we're going to use the same method here to put the blade and the new pivot pin in as I did when I removed, I actually had to tap out the old pivot pin there. So we'll get this handle set up. Again, I'm using that piece of G10, piece of cardboard, or two pieces of cardboard, one on each side. And we will move over here to my vise. And I will attempt to show everything as I go here. Get this in my vise, and again, attempt to have the handle and everything in here square. That way it doesn't want to push the handle off to the side. I'm going to attempt to show everything in real time, because some things are just piddly, and in a video it can just look quick and easy. Okay, get the blade set in there, and we'll get the pivot pin here started. There we go. Now give it a good squeeze. And the pivot pin should very easily push through. Now we let the pressure off. And our pivot pin is installed. I personally enjoy or prefer doing it that way instead of hammering the pins in, because you can remove material whenever you still have the back spring tension on everything. You can remove material off your pins whenever you're having to hammer it in. But anyhow, so we got this done. So we will move right over here, and I will drag out my block of wood with my homemade peening anvil, which is sledgehammer head that a handle had broke off of, and I drilled a big old hole in this chunk of wood and hammered this down in there so it's solid. You can lift the chunk of wood up by it, so it makes a real nice solid base. And I'm going to be using this little small hammer that was so kindly and generously gifted to me a while back. Okay, now I got this piece of heat treat foil that I have cut a little notch in. So I'm going to wiggle the blade side to side a little bit, create a little bit of room. And on the, not the show side where my maker's mark is, but on the opposite side, I'm going to slip this in here and get it in to where that will go around the pivot pin. See, I've got this side right here bent on me. Let's try this again. See if I can't slide it in like this. As we can see, I've used this a time or two, so it might be about time to make a new one here before too long. This is starting to give me some trouble. There we go. Took a little bit of fiddling, but I got it in. This will keep everything from clamping too hard while peening, though I generally peen it together really snug as it is, with some break-in period required. But this just helps alleviate some of the pinching power during the peening process. Okay, got one side that's nice and smooth. I set this down, and as I start peening on the outside perimeter of the pin. I don't just start right in the center. If you go right in the center, you'll expand the diameter of the pin all the way through, which will fill up and tighten inside of the pivot hole of the blade, which will cause tightness as well. Now, this is a nickel silver pin. I don't pin stainless pins very often, so I can't speak to stainless, but nickel, silver, and brass pins, this is the method that I use. Especially if you're a beginner, a nickel, silver, or brass pins, I personally think are good to learn on because they are easier to peen than a stainless pin. But that's just my personal opinion. So I'm essentially doming the head of this. But in doing so, I am mushrooming the head of the pin out to make sure it's going to fill in the gaps. Which these are light taps that I'm starting with. Okay. Still have plenty of the pin showing proud. I think you can see it right there on either side. They have mushroomed out fairly nicely at this point, so I'm going to start peening more firmly. And if you miss-hit, you can tell the difference in sound compared to the pin or the handle. Pin, handle. Okay, still wiggle. So we still have plenty of peening left to do. It's starting to tighten up, though there's still slight wiggle in it, which is good. Okay, now it's tight. So we know we're starting to squeeze things together now. Oh yes. Now one thing I will note is I do not have my handle finished out. So therefore if I make a little mistap, it isn't the end of the world for me because my handle isn't finished out. It's just up to like a 320 belt finish at the moment. Some folks with a lot more experience than me I've seen will finish out the handle and then just have a little spot to finish after they're done peening. I personally have better luck doing it all at one time, finishing out. Okay, go around again. Okay, yes. But now, at this point, as you're seeing, I am tweaking that blade back and forth. Now we got a nice sized domed head that is on the outside of the bushing, which if it was a bolster it'd be the same thing. I have a domed head on the outside, so where it's on the outside it is going to hold a lot stronger compared to whenever I sand this down, and it's just going to be the tapered reamer hole holding it. But I still, and I am doing some lot of pressure side to side. I'm starting my process of seating this pin. Okay, and it stayed tight. So at this point, I am happy with the peening process. So I am going to now see about pulling this out. Now, being I've reused this, there's always the chance that one of those little legs might tear off. It's not the end of the world. It can still be worked out, but the potential is there, especially where I have it peened tight. Got a pair of pliers. Okay, I pulled it out. I didn't lose. I got everything out, so that is good. Now, I can feel a tiny bit of wiggle in there because this was holding the handles apart just the slightest. Okay, so at this moment, the blade functions nicely. It's free. But once again, I am going back and forth with a lot of side pressure. I am not being gentle with this. I loosened up slightly. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go over to my belt grinder. And I will turn you all around here with me. Get the belt on under tension here. Now this is just a 320 grit belt. And I'm going to start grinding the head of the pivot pin down. I'm not going to take it totally flush yet. So you might want to turn your volume down as I turn this belt grinder on. Okay, and to be quite honest, I got them a little smoother than I wanted to, but I believe we'll still be okay. Come back over here. Now, once again, Here it's starting to make noise. That means it's seating the pivot pin. Okay, here we go. Let's see how it's pulled the pivot pin in. See the line? There you go. See how the pivot pin's in? It's pulled on the pivot pin. So now once again, I'm going to peen on it. And this is the part where I didn't want to have it ground down quite that flush. Okay, tightened it right back up. I'm using a lot of force, and you can't hear any of that rattling, but it's seating it a little more now though. I'm getting a little bit of wiggle back into it. And again, I am not being gentle. I am using a lot of force in this process. Test the action. It's nice. But I'm continually back and forth because I'm wanting that pin seated the best that I can get it. It's tight again. So going back, side to side pressure. Hear it? We got loosened up again. This process can take a little while. I'm actually going to use the rounded part of this hammer now. That creates a little bit of dimples, which helps spread the material out. Oh yes, good and tight again. So once again, side to side pressure. Get that pin seated in. You got it loosened up some more. Nice and free. But as we can see, it pulled in a little bit more. Oh yeah, good and tight again. See, what this process is doing is it is swelling each side of the pivot pin out to fill in the gap that the tapered reamer created, which is making the pivot pin basically a rivet. Alright, let's still works, but it's more lazy now because it's a lot more stiff. So we're making progress. The pivot pin is starting to get seated and fill in each side. The reason why I do this is I don't want any little bitty side pressure to pull my pivot pin in. And it's something I have been trying to avoid in my pocket knives lately. There we go. Getting a little bit of wiggle back into it. See? It's running free again, which is good. But we want to keep doing this until we can't free it up as so easy like that. Oh yes. See, it doesn't even work on its own now. See, that's the point I'm getting at. Then I'm doing side to side pressure. Oh, you're going to break it. If I break it, I'm making a junky knife. So I'm not worried about that. My goal is to make a tough knife. Okay. Good. It's not loosening right up. It's getting a little bit of its action left. Still gotta seat that pin in. See, this is probably the last time I'm going to do this, because I am tweaking on this really hard right now. No blade rattle. Still, it runs on its own, but it's very lazy. So I know this pivot pin is peened out and swelled out very well at this point. And this is just seating it in its final spot. So when it's finished out and somebody cuts or they get on something, they pry a little bit, it's going to take a lot of force to pull that pivot pin in. Still a little lazy. There we go. We're getting there. To tell you how hard that I am pushing and pulling on this blade, where I'm holding the handle of this up here at the pivot, my forearm is on fire right now. There we go. Action is coming up nicely. Now if you peen one together and all you do is run the action back and forth like this right here, you are doing nothing to seat your pivot pin in. Even though it's peened, you're not seating it. In my opinion, that is two different steps that kind of goes hand in hand. Give some more side pressure back and forth. And mind you, I have not got any lubrication in it as of this moment. There we go. Now, I don't know if you can hear that. You can hear the slightest wiggle, and I'm cranking on that hard. But we have our nice action back. And I am pleased with that last one because it took a lot of force to do that. So I know that pivot pin is seated quite nicely now. So of course, this looks terrible where I've been peening on it, especially with the ball end of this hammer. So we're going to come back over here to the belt grinder. And once again, might want to turn your volume down as I turn this belt grinder on.